Yo, what is good, YouTube, and welcome back to another JC2K video. In today's video, we are going to be ranking the best shooting guards in NBA 2K24 MyTEAM here on this tier list. We got about 30-something of the best shooting guards in my team, but if there's anybody that I leave off the list that you'd like to hear my thoughts on at the shooting guard position, feel free to leave me a comment. I'll try to let you know where I'd put them. Before we hop into the video, if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Help me push towards the 30,000 subscriber mark on the channel. I upload every single day, tons of consistent daily MyTEAM content. Would really appreciate it if y'all do subscribe. Without further ado, let's hop right into it. So I find it interesting. The comments on my point guard tier list were not very flattering, I guess. They didn't really like my ranking too much, but the thing is, I am ranking these cards from a competitive level, not like which cards are the most fun to use or who's your favorite card. Like, I'm ranking these cards on their competitive viability, how truly elite they are at the highest level, in my personal opinion. When you are playing against somebody who is skillful at the game, what cards do you want to use? Because all of these guys are usable against somebody bad, and if one of these guys is your favorite player, use them. It's called my team for that reason at the end of the day. But this is my opinion. Number one, you're allowed to disagree with me, and number two, remember, I'm thinking it's from a competitive level, not which card is the most fun to use or whatever the case may be. So keep that in mind when you are watching this video. But we'll start off with Scottie Pippen. I will say Scottie is, I mean, he's a great 3-and-D, and he's 100 overall. This Scottie Pippen specifically is 100 overall, which is really nice. The honest truth, though, is, and I don't even know why I put Dark Matter Scottie on this list, because they're the same exact card. Like, this Scottie Pippen does not have any better SIGs than his regular Dark Matter. In fact, I'm going to put his regular Dark Matter at the bottom here, and I don't even think I'm actually, oh, it did non-alphabetical order again. Hold on. So this actually isn't exactly how I want this. So let me mix these cards up a little bit more, but just so it's not all 100 overalls in order. But Scottie Pippen, I mean, I would put him, I think, B tier at this point. Now, that is not a, maybe, low A. He's 6'8", so I'm going to put him low A. He's got an elite release. He's 6'8", great defender. He just doesn't have top tier SIGs, and at this point in the game, that does matter because there are probably 10 shooting guards on this list, or nearly 10, who are better than him. And that's the honest truth. I understand he's a very good card. The shooting guard position is deep, and there are a lot of good cards, and I think Scottie Pippen is A tier, but I wouldn't say he's any better than a guy like RJ Barrett, for example. Like, RJ Barrett's release, maybe not quite as good as Pippen's, but he's got better SIGs. Not quite as tall, not quite as elite defensively, but very similar as a slasher and with better shot creation. Does kind of, I think, give you more offensively than a guy like Pippen does. Now, Pippen is obviously a better pure 3-and-D. I would put them both on the same tier. I like this RJ Barrett. I think he's low A, high B, just like Scottie Pippen. Not super duper high on the list, though. Paul Pierce. More like Paul Mid. I'm not going to lie. That doesn't even make sense. But this card's not good. His release stinks. He just is not an elite level shooting guard at all. Everything else about the card is fine, but his release is awful. And at this point in the year, especially at a position like shooting guard where you really, really want a good release, that's pretty unacceptable. So I'm not trying to bash Paul Pierce. I'm not one of those guys who hates Paul Pierce. I know there are a lot of people out there who in real life just don't like Paul Pierce, but I'm not one of those people. I just don't think he's an elite MyTEAM card. His release is bad. I'd put him D tier. Jason Tatum, I think he's worse than Pippen and RJ Barrett. He's a worse version of Pippen in terms of being a 3-and-D type option. And then RJ Barrett, he just doesn't give you the shot creation of that at that level. I don't think he's bad. He's got Pro 2 Fade and a very good release, and I think he's a very solid card. But I think very high B is probably a very fair spot for him. I'm not exceedingly high on Tatum at all. DeMar DeRozan has a bad release, and he's only 6'6". He's not good either. He and Paul Pierce are two of the worst cards in this list without a doubt. And this list, again, remember, is very, very stacked. A lot of really good cards. So I think when you're just very mediocre in something like a release at this point in the year, you got to go D tier. Brandon Ingram, honestly, he's probably D as well. Like, as much as I don't want to bash these cards, Brandon Ingram, I mean, he does everything well except, again, bad release. Now, he is 6'7". He's a little bit bigger player build-wise than these other two guys. I'd say I think Paul Pierce is 6'7" as well. His release isn't good. He's just, I don't know. I'll go C for Brandon Ingram because he does have great SIGs. I think on paper he's a little better than these two guys, but not by much. I mean, low C is probably pretty fair. I think Ray Allen's mid B. Like, his animations are okay, but his release is not as good as I thought it was going to be, especially when they changed his base to Corver base. Like, I'm not sitting here and saying he's a horrible card because he's not, but he is a little undersized, only 6'5", and I don't think his release is good as I thought it would be. SIGs are great. Release still isn't terrible, but at an undersized guy, there are definitely better shooting guard options, especially considering how stacked this position is again, and so we'll go with him in B. Glenn Rice is obviously yes. This is the best shooting guard in the game. He has the best release in the game. Patty Mills base with Colin Sexton upper is the best release in my team, bar none right now. I mean, absolutely exceptional release. Glenn Rice, to this day, is still as good as basically any card in my team, pretty much. I think he is the best 300 in the game and one of the most skillful and elite cards in all of my team. He is an S tier card for sure. Anthony Edwards is undersized at 6'5", and again, does not have an elite level release. That's an automatic, not elite card, just like, honestly, several of the other cards we already talked about, but I don't think Anthony Edwards is anything special, and I think he is a definite, again, probably I think he's got to go D tier. That lack of size and mediocre release, like he just has to. Obviously, Wemby is 7'4". That is all I have to say. He's 7'4". Do I need to say anything else? That being said, he does have not a great release, but he's actually got half decent SIGs, and his stats and badges are exceptional, whereas we haven't gotten to Shaq yet, but Shaq is not going to be S tier. Let me just say that. Wemby has a better release. He's bigger. He's got better SIGs, and he, I think, better stats and badges as well. Being an elite level shooter as a base card is kind of a big deal, and I think this Wemby card's really good. I really do. I think he's absolutely exceptional. Point guard, shooting guard, small forward. Either way, Wemby's as good as it gets. The only reason I might take Glenn over Wemby just because of Glenn's SIGs and animations, but they're both exceptional cards, and they both provide about the same thing as well. So I think they don't provide the same thing, but I think they provide the same level of production, I guess. Both elite level cards, truly some of the best cards in all of my team is what I mean by that. Michael Beasley, also S tier. Elite release. He's basically, I think, similar to Glenn Rice in that he's got elite level SIGs and does a ton of things really well. I just don't know if he's quite as good as Glenn Rice. His release isn't quite as elite. Now, again, the card is certainly not a bad card at all. I just think he could maybe be a little bit better than he is. I don't know, like, a little bit better if his release was maybe a teensy bit more consistent would be probably my one critique. Like he's what, 6'9", he's got great size, he's a versatile defender. He is maybe the third best shooting guard in the game after these two guys. I think he's S tier. Paul George is super high A. I don't think I'd quite go S. His release could be a little better. That's the one critique. It's not a bad release by any means at all. It's a very good release, in fact. But again, when I say I think it could be a little bit better, that's not intended to bash the card. I just think there are ways that he could be improved upon just a little bit is basically what I'm saying. Adrian Dantley. Now, this Adrian Dantley card is not a card that I have used at all, but I don't think he's very good. So I kind of have to rank him based on that. He's only 6'5", number one. Undersized. Number two, stats and badges are really good, I will say that. Gary Trent Jr. base is not a very good jump shot, I will say that. Trey Fade is elite. SIGs are meh. This card's not as bad as the guys who are in D tier, but he's not elite either. He's a C tier card. I'm going with Adrian Dantley in C tier. I think that's totally fair. Ron Artest is S tier. He and Beasley are the two best non-Wemby or Glenn Rice shooting guards in the game, in my opinion. Exceptional release, exceptional SIGs, exceptional defender, very good player, built all that type of stuff. Ron Artest, absolutely elite level card, no doubt about it. Nick Young, pretty mid. Great release, but not exceptional SIGs, not an elite level defender at this point in the year. He is not a bad card by any means, but he's certainly not one of the best cards in the game or anything like that. I'm not going to sit here and bash the card like he's a terrible option, but he's certainly not an elite level card. I would put him in the C tier at this point. Jaylen Brown, his release just isn't very good. That's why he goes B tier. I know he's 100 overall, and he's a free 100 overall, and he's not terrible, but his release could certainly be better. I wouldn't put him over the guys in A tier. That's a B tier card to me. Dr. J's right on the borderline to me of A or S. And he's really good, but we have a few other guys left on this list. I look at this list. There's a few guys who are probably slightly better than him left. I say a few. No, there's not. I lied. He's S tier. There might be one or two more that you could argue are better than him, but I think Dr. J's release is exceptional. I think he does a lot of things really well. I think he's a versatile shot creator. I think his player build looks bigger than his height is listed at because of the afro he's got. Like, as a whole, I think he's honestly a little bit of a slept-on card at this point because he's been out for a while, and I still think he's one of the best shooting guards in my team. Joe Johnson is super mid, mediocre release, not elite SIGs. He's another one of those more outdated dark matters. Both him and DeMar DeRozan are super duper mid. I think they came out in the same week as well. They were both very mid options, and I think D tier is fair. Shaq's going to go B. He's 7'1", but his release is bad. He doesn't have a high three ball. His SIGs could be better. He's 7'1", though, and that provides value, puts him in B tier. You could argue A because of the size. I just personally wouldn't. Reggie Lewis, a very good free shooting guard. Not quite S tier caliber, but definitely a good free card, like I said. Does a lot of things well at the shooting guard position, and really good defender, super solid card. All these A tier guys are elite level cards. Honestly, T-Mac, he's 6'8", but I don't think his release is unbelievably great either. I wouldn't put him S tier, although I would also put him A. I think he's a very solid card. I think he could be a little bit better probably as a whole, but he's certainly not a bad option either. I'd go A with him. Kawhi Leonard, is he A or B? If Reggie Lewis is B, so is Kawhi. I think their releases are pretty similar speed. I think they pretty much give you the same thing in both being elite level defenders, very similar size as well. I think Kawhi has to go in that A tier as well. Very, very good card. Honestly, I'm looking at this right now. I think RJ Barrett might be the one that I would move down to B. Clay is B. His release isn't that great. He's good, but he's not unbelievable. I would put him in the B tier. KD is S tier because he's 6'10". I do not love his release, but I do like everything else about the card, and so that is okay. His release doesn't have to be the best in the world for him to still be a really, really, really damn good card because it's still a good enough release, especially at 6'10", with his perfect SIGs and all the things that he does well. I'd go him very, very borderline S, but probably back at S tier. Ricky Davis, top A, pretty much perfect SIGs, great stats and badges. He is really, really good. But again, so are a lot of the other guys in A tier, and can't put everybody in S tier. So I think that's probably fair. RJ Barrett almost feels like a move down to me. Brandon Roy is good. He's got a nice release. He's got a solid fade. D-Book fade is good. He's a good card, but I don't think he's an unbelievably great card at this point in the year. And again, that's not intended to bash Brandon Roy at all. I think he's a very, very solid card. I just think he also could be slightly better if he had a better escape and maybe slightly taller. I mean, he's not C, though. No, he's not. He's B. I'm going Brandon Roy B. I think that's fair. Jimmy Butler, on the other hand, is more of a C tier card. His release is not exceptional. His SIGs are good, not great, but he is big, elite defender, solid shot creator, release is greenable. He's a good card, not an incredible one. I'd go C for him. Vince is high C to me. I like his release. I think his SIGs are, again, leave some room to be desired for sure. But again, I think he's a really solid card, and I think C tier is totally fair. Hondo is really good at 6'5". I'm moving RJ Barrett down. He fits better in the B tier than he does the A tier, I think. Hondo's really good. He's the best 6'5" shooting guard in the game. He's got incredible SIGs, an amazing release. He does everything exceptionally well. He is really close to S tier to me. Really, really close. I really like Hondo, but honestly, Hondo's like guys like Hondo, Ricky Davis, Paul George, Pippen, T-Mac, all exceptional cards, all deserving, I think, more of A tier than they are anything else, though. It's tough, but I think that's probably fair. Carmelo Anthony. Is he B or C at this point? Carmelo's SIGs are good, not great. His fade is nice. His release is very good. He has good size at 6'7", with a player build that's solid and solid defense. I think I'd go B. I don't love the card, but I think B tier is fair. And then finally, Rick Barry is actually going to snag the last S tier spot. He is, in my opinion, slightly better than John Havlicek. He's bigger player build. Maybe not quite as good of a release, but still a really good release with perfect SIGs and animations and an elite defender as well. Really, really good card. Now, I would love to move somebody down from B to C right now, but I don't really feel like I want to force that, and I just don't think anybody in C truly deserves to be in D tier right now. So it's a little teensy bit of a top-heavy list, but I hope y'all did enjoy the video. I'd be interested to hear y'all's thoughts on my list. And if you did enjoy, make sure you hit that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe. I'll be back with more 2K content very, very soon. I appreciate y'all. Peace.